outside the council, out off the cameras, like I did with Mr. Hall.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Tam, who's next?
Matthew Cardinale and Ron Secure.
Hi, everybody. This is Matthew Cardinale, news editor of Atlanta Progressive News. Ms. Campbell, can you also let me know when I have like 2 minutes left? Great. I wanted to pick up where we left off last committee meeting in reference to affordable housing and the Beltline. And Mr. Young, I wanted to thank you for advancing the discussion in your remarks. And I don't think it's right to challenge you to discuss affordable housing and then jump on you for doing so, so I'm going to try to be nice. But I must respond to some points that you made. Poverty housing, I hope that we wouldn't hear a loaded term like that in this committee. And I'm certain that you were referring to extremely low-income housing. But when you say poverty housing, it really sounds like a loaded term. And I want to tell you something. I mean, I live in affordable housing, and I'm very thankful to live in affordable housing. But that doesn't mean that I'm in poverty. It means that the rents in this city are too damn high. You know, and when we talk about the median income, I mean, you're basically comparing people's incomes against the entire metro area. You know, who are these people who are making 30% ELI? Seniors, people in the service sector, small business people. And I would just like to say rents have gone up like 50% in the last 15 years. When I was first on the rental market in the mid-90s, you could get an apartment $300-400. Now you better be prepared to start off at $600. You know, so what I'm saying is, you know, these are real people, and they need somewhere to live. So I don't think we need to think about that as if there's something wrong with them that they can't afford these rents. You also made a comment, and this is just a general discussion, this isn't directed at anybody, but you said you did not want to hamstring developers with an exorbitantly high requirement for poverty housing. Well, what is exorbitantly high? We were talking about 10% of units. If 10% are at 30% AMI, and another 5% are at 60% AMI, which was the original BAHAB recommendation, the other 85% are market rate, which means that the landlords can extract from the public whatever they can on the other 85%. And what we're saying is that that can't be done. If that's the case, then we have a problem with our entire housing model that needs to be looked at. And you said, other people have said, we want provision across all income brackets. First of all, the bracket where there is the most need is the extremely low income housing. 2 minutes? Thank you. But when it comes down to it, nobody is doing anything to support ELI housing. We just lost 3,000 units under the AHA demolitions. Now, let me go back to a statement that the chair made, that the committee was satisfied with the answers. Mr. Wan, can you clarify for me how that decision was made that the committee was satisfied? Because it was not done publicly, and I've spoken with 2 council members who have said that they didn't participate in that decision. Could you please enlighten me?
That was a statement made by the chair. I think you need to take that up with her. So, thank you.
Oh, did you participate in the decision?
I don't know that there was necessarily a decision made. I think you need to discuss that with the chair.
Okay. Because I just think this is going to be a problem going forward. Because when someone makes a statement like that and a fraud may be perpetuating through this committee, then we have a responsibility to object when deceptive statements are made. The other thing I wanted to follow up on, Joyce Shepard said that she would bring the ordinance number of the legislation that gives her the authority to be on the Beltline. That was a promise made to Mr. Howard. Do we have that ordinance number today?
I don't have it again. I think we need to discuss that with the chair.
Okay. Well, when there are commitments that are made to the public, I think those should be really tracked under unfinished business. I've seen Mr. Young in public safety when there's been, things that have been promised to the public, those actually go on the agenda. I think we should really start tracking that because this isn't the first time this has happened in this committee. I hope that we'll get that ordinance number next week. And Mr. Young, you said you want a scientific approach. I don't trust the Beltline statistics. I don't trust the ADA's statistics. We assume that they used science, but, just because they reached conclusions doesn't mean that they're valid. So I would like them to come before this committee and explain how they reached the conclusion that these affordable housing units are so impossible for our city. Thank you very much for your time.
Mr. Young.
I'll be happy to apologize for the use of the word poverty because it wasn't meant to be derogatory. In the realm of housing, we use the definition to categorize a housing type and a demographic, and it wasn't meant to be derogatory. What I was really what I thought I said dealt more with if we're to make provisions for all income levels, including folks who happen to live in what is defined as poverty, that we have to have a balanced demographic. And when I speak of scientific approach, it's not to validate the outcomes of the Beltline or the Housing Authority or anyone else. But when I speak of scientific, we need a combination of public and private investment, and private sector investors are very scientific when it comes to their approach to financing economic development, which fundamentally provides services for all income levels. And so fundamentally, scientific for me is if we spend public dollars within a census tract, let's provide a boost in the demographic that complements the existing demographics. Having lived in poverty, having witnessed poverty, we have proven that concentrated poverty is not our objective. It is diverse, kind of homogeneous mixed income environments that serve us all. But to achieve that and still provide economic development, we can't have an imbalance of households who happen to fit the definition of poverty. So my loose term, using the term poverty, was more to describe a demographic than to characterize character or quality, because poverty has nothing to do with the quality of the characteristics of anyone. And so it wasn't meant to be derogatory, but I hope that provides some clarity.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. I just think, I agree with you, we need a balance. I just think that the ELI housing is missing, and we need to really do something meaningful. So that's going to be an ongoing conversation. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Cardinale. Ms. Archibong.
Yeah, this is to the committee mainly. I think to Mr. Cardinale's point about taking comments from the public, I wonder if it would be a better practice for the public ask somebody to have something done that one of us makes the recommendation, and therefore it would have a little more weight. So to that point, I would ask Mr. Tam that we, for the next meeting, bring in the ordinance number that Mr. Ben Howard and then Mr. Cardinale just referenced. And to the public, I guess if you don't hear one of us take up your issue, then, it may be in the ether somewhere, but I think we would be willing to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Archibong. I actually have 3 notes written down as follow-ups. One is to incorporate the questions and answers to the Beltline, have those added to the minutes.
We did that already.
Right, I'm just laundry list here. The other is the ordinance that gives the CDR chair authority to sit on the ABI board. And the final one was that I was going to get with Councilperson Shepard to discuss the agencies and boards that report to CT. So I have these written down. All right, final comment, public comment.